Hello everybody, welcome back to my series of American Horror Story recaps. Today we're going to be talking about double feature, specifically the Red Tide portion of the season. I was going to do both parts of double feature in this video, but then I realized that the second part doesn't really necessarily need me standing in front of a board because the characters, first of all, the worst in fact. So I decided I'm not going to do a board for Death Valley. I think I'm literally just going to make maybe like a 20-minute video on it because it's so short. The characters are not complex or interesting. I'm literally just going to be talking about its flaws and maybe doing like a general summary. I cannot make anything of that season. That season is pure dog shit. So I will not be covering it in like a normal recap like this. You may have also noticed that the board has shrunken since the last season, and that's because this season's timeline literally goes to like right here or something. It's not very big. Double feature, if you didn't know, includes, well, 2 seasons, and that's why it's called double feature, but they didn't actually increase the length of both of the seasons, so both seasons are like 5 episodes. Actually, I think this one is 6 episodes, and then Death Valley is like 4. Double feature has very high highs and very low lows, okay? When it first started out, I was like, this is one of the best seasons we've gotten in years. Like, genuinely, it is actually very, 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 very good. And then the last episode just of this season, Red Tide, just completely goes off the rails. So the cast this season is a little bit weird. I would consider all of these girlies the main characters this season. These 3 right here, absolutely wasted. They don't do anything with them, and it's so unfortunate because these 3 actors are some of the best to come out of this show. I just want to know what Ryan Murphy was thinking, because he completely did Adina Porter, Billy Lord, and Dennis O'Hare dirty. These roles are not giving. They're not giving what they need to give. Really, that's like the season's one negative, in my opinion, is it's too short. The characters sometimes are not all the way fleshed out. The ending is absolutely atrocious. Everything else, oh my gosh, this was such a good season. Like, I'm not going to lie. The ending might have been ass. Absolute ass. But this cast, you can't deny, it eats. This is probably like the 2nd or 3rd best cast that we've gotten. I mean, we have Macaulay Culkin in this season, okay? I did not ever think we were going to see Macaulay Culkin in this show, and when it was announced back in like 2020, Ryan Murphy just gave the cast away, basically right away. Macaulay Culkin was like the first on the bill, and I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. Anyway, everyone here perfectly cast, besides the fact that these 3 have nothing to do. So first for the characters, we have Mother Frances Conroy, who has returned to the series, and she is playing essentially like the leader of the vampire. She's not like a leader, like there isn't like a group of them, but they are all kind of like individuals that all feed on blood for a specific reason. They're not just like the bloodsuckers from Hotel. They're a lot different in this season. This is my mother, Belle Noire. Her real name is Sarah Cunningham, and she is a writer. She's a novelist, and she writes erotica. She writes erotica, and she's so good in this role. This would be Frances Conroy's last season that she appears in, and boy did she go out with a bang. Next we have Evan Peters as Austin Summers, and he is a playwright, and I love Evan Peters. I love him so much, okay? I don't want to understate the fact how much I love him, but this season, he's kind of giving nothing. He's kind of giving nothing as well. He wanted to have like a much more reduced role, and I think that us as an audience kind of expect him to have like the crazy, outlandish, like killer or like cult leader or, you know, psychopath. But this season, he's just kind of just being himself, having a lot of fun. He is friends with Belle, and together they recruit people to join them. I don't know exactly why. I feel like if I was them, I'd want to keep it under wraps. Next, we have Macaulay Culkin, who plays a character named Mickey this season. He is a sex worker. He is friends with Karen. Now, Karen, also known as tuberculosis Karen, she is also homeless, and her story this season is absolutely tragic. Like, think Sally from Hotel, but just like 30 times worse. Her monologues this season are just too good. She's not used nearly enough. Like, I needed to see more of her, to the point where it kind of feels like when she's not in an episode, is that episode even worth watching? Although she was working on like 2 or 3 different shows at the time while she was filming this, so I understand why she was in a reduced role. So next we have the Gardner family. Now for the first few episodes, the season kind of really focuses on these girlies, but by the end of the season, they're not as important. So I'm just gonna go over them really briefly. This is Harry. He is also a TV writer. He is moving to Provincetown with his family at the beginning of the season so that he can work on a pilot for the network that he works for. And his wife, Doris, is an interior designer, and she has gotten a job in Provincetown at this house to like completely renovate it. And one thing about her, this is a minimalist queen, okay? She is into millennial gray. She's into her, you know, tone on tone. She's basically that like influencer mom that paints over her marble counter so that it doesn't look dirty. Next, we have Alma, who is their daughter. Now, she plays, I think it's the violin. I don't know anything about instruments, but she is a child prodigy. Her whole thing is that she tries to be better than everyone around her. I feel like she got a lot of hate online because everyone was saying that she was not a good actress, but like I didn't see that. Like she kind of ate just a little bit for her age. And next we have Ursula. Ursula is such a joy this season. She is Harry's agent, and she basically moves out to Provincetown to see what is going on because suddenly Harry starts producing a lot of work. And she's like, I'm gonna go get the insider scoop about what's happening in Provincetown. Her characters are always kind of the same, so this is essentially just Leslie Grossman playing Leslie Grossman again. Next we have Chief Burleson. I think that's how you say her name. I could be wrong. She is the police chief, and like I said, there is not a lot going on for her. She is just kind of there. Next we have Lark. She is a tattoo artist that lives in Provincetown. She has nothing to do with the plot, in fact. She just pops up randomly. And we also learn that she sharpens people's teeth for them so that they can be better vampires. Those are the two things that we know about her. And next we have Holden Vaughn, who is another interior designer, I think, or some kind of artist. He lives in Provincetown and he's a little bit of a snob. Really nothing else I can say about him because he doesn't do anything. Literally nothing. So yeah. Oh, and finally, we have the chemist. They don't give her a real name. Her name is just the chemist. Also, I'm not entirely sure if she is supposed to be non-binary because sometimes they use they, them to describe her, and sometimes they use she, her. So I don't know. I'm just gonna use she, her. She is a chemist that lives in town, and she creates a drug, and we will see what that means later on in the season. So we start off on day 1. It is January 24th, 2021. The Gardner family, and they are driving to their new house in Provincetown. Their daughter Alma is counting roadkill on the side of the road, and that is when Harry decides to get out of the car and look at what is going on outside and why there's so much roadkill. This is when Doris warns him about the fact that he could be getting Lyme. They get back in their car and head to the house. And after they drive away, we see that the dead deer that they were looking at gets dragged away, and there's like a blood streak on the road. One thing about this season, the cinematography, the editing, the music, top tier. For a few seasons, they just didn't give a shit about that. Like basically from Roanoke all the way to Apocalypse and even 1984. The editing was just so standard and there was nothing interesting or new about the cinematography. It was literally like you were watching something on ABC or NBC, the CW even. After moving into the house, Harry heads to the store, and this is where he's confronted by Karen, and she is warning him, saying that he needs to get the hell out of town and that there's some kind of monster in town, some kind of creature. Harry is having a very hard time writing his script in his mind because Alma is playing her violin a little too loud, and like I said before, she's a perfectionist, so she has to get it right. Like she just has to keep going. Alma and Doris go for a walk, and they are chased by these like pale looking Nosferatu vampire looking ass bitches, and they run away. They get back in the house, and later in the episode we see that Chief Burleson, she takes their statement and says that it was probably just some druggies. Later that night we see a pale guy at Alma's window, and he hisses at her as if he was a snake. And then it is now the next day, day 3, January 26th. In the morning, Harry goes for a walk on the beach and sees 2 bodies on the shore. He has another encounter with Chief Burleson and gives his statement about the bodies that he found. He decides not to tell Doris about his encounter with the police chief and the 2 dead bodies and heads back home. He suggests to his wife that they go out to eat and kind of get over this spell of craziness that's happened the last few days. He suggests that they go out to eat, just the 2 of them, at the only restaurant in town. However, she gets sick immediately after this, and it's a little sketchy. So he decides to go himself, just all alone, without Doris. At the bar, we meet Mickey. He is trying to pick Harry up, and Harry's like, I'm married. I am straight and I'm married, sorry. And to be honest, Macaulay Culkin fits right in with this cast. Like, I wouldn't say that he sticks out in any way, like in a negative way. We then get a very iconic duo of Belle and Austin, who are doing a duet in the bar. So legendary, even if you don't know these characters, which you don't, like the first time you watch this obviously. Like, they're crazy and over the top, but how could you not love them? After the song, they invite Harry over to drink with them, and they're like, we know that you're a writer. Do you want to hang out with us? Because they are both writers themselves, both famous writers. She is a author, and then he is a playwright, and they're like, oh, like, you're one of us, like, come hang out with us. They say that they're only there for like 5 or 6 months of the year to get as much of their work done as possible in P-Town because it's a very inspiring place. They use that word a lot. Inspiration just grows on trees for them here. And then Karen interrupts this conversation and is like, you need to stay away from those 2 bloodsuckers, to Harry, and Harry's like, the fuck, this lady is insane. And then she leaves the bar, and like I said, we don't see a whole lot of Karen, but when she does show up, she steals the show. And later that night, Harry returns home and is attacked by one of the pale creatures outside. Harry fights his way out of it and kills the pale creature, and then the chief yet again, and this is the 3rd encounter that he's had with this woman, and before, she was like, oh, this is a quiet town, there's not any crime here. The chief kind of excuses it and is just like, we're not gonna look into it, it's okay, you defended yourself, there's nothing going on here. And the next day, it is day 4, January 27th, 2021. So the Gardners decide that they're going to leave their house here in Provincetown and return to New York. However, Harry gets a call from Austin, and he heads over to Austin's house. Austin is really kind of like a man-child, to be honest. He's day drinking, he's singing, randomly breaking out into song, and this is when he offers Harry a magical black pill. Claims that it will solve all of Harry's writer's block and get him out of the funk that he's in. He then gets a call from his agent, Ursula. And Ursula says that he is not to leave Provincetown under any circumstances, because if that's the place that he is going to get most inspired, he needs to stay put. Harry, out of frustration, just takes the pill because he's like, well, what can it do? Like, what's it gonna do to me? He said it had nothing dangerous in it, so... And at the end of the episode, we see that Alma is looking on at her dad taking the pill. The episode begins, we are still on day 4, January 27th. Harry and his family are in the car and they are just about to leave when Harry suddenly gets like so much inspiration to write. So he grabs his laptop from the back seat, runs in the house, and starts typing. His family's really baffled by this. They're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like, couldn't you have just done this when we got to the hotel or when we got back to New York? Later that night, he kind of snaps at Alma when Alma accuses him of taking some kind of speed. Later that night, Harry apologizes to his family and says he was sorry for yelling at Alma, and they give him like a sandwich, and then suddenly he like throws it up because apparently it tasted rotten to him. The next day, it is day 5, January 28th, 2021. Doris reads Harry's script. He has apparently written like episodes at this point of his script. Like, he was typing. He did not sleep. He did not give himself a rest and relaxation period. He's just been typing all night. Harry then walks to the store and he sees those like pale creatures outside, and they circle him like they were about to attack him, and then they smelled him and it like deterred them. So Harry is ravenous. He is starving for red meat, specifically the bloody red meat. And this is when we see Karen show up and criticize him for taking the pill because she knows that the side effect of this pill that he took is blood. You need to drink blood. And later that night, Harry returns home and has a blood smoothie. It is absolutely foul. He puts a bunch of different meat in a blender and drinks it raw. He gets a sudden burst of creativity and writes a ton of more scripts, and we see that Belle and Austin are right outside of his house watching him through the window type his little episodes out. Day 10, February 2nd, 2021. Doris has grown increasingly upset with Harry, asking him why they have continued to stay here in Provincetown if things just keep getting weirder, there's more creatures everywhere, and she's uncomfortable with the situation. So she tries to ask him if they can leave, and he's like, no, I have to write a couple more episodes. It's okay, I'm almost done. And this has been his excuse for days at this point. She's cutting vegetables and then suddenly cuts her finger by accident, and Harry rushes over to her and sucks like a bunch of blood out of her finger. Harry has a conversation with Austin, and he asks him why he's suddenly so bloodthirsty, why he's sucking blood out of his wife's finger. Austin tells him about the origin of the pill. It was created by a chemist a few years ago. She wanted to harvest the creative mind, and that the creative people are the only ones that can take the pill. If you're not creative, you get turned into the pale monsters outside. So that's the premise this season. Harry says that he's done with the pill. He gives it up to Austin and returns home. This is when he gets a call from his agent, Ursula, and she tells him that he just got a full series order at Netflix and that Joaquin Phoenix is going to star in it. Suddenly those pills are starting to look really good to him, and he returns to Austin and asks for them back. We then see Belle and Austin take Harry out to have his first fresh meal. A couple of drug addicts that are trying to sell something on Craigslist. There's also this really interesting scene in the episode where we learn a lot more about Karen and Mickey. We learn that Mickey is a writer and Karen is a painter, and he wants to take the pill so that he can try to end up like Belle and Austin, and she is kind of against this. One of the options is you becoming a shell of a person and turning pale, losing all your hair. And the other option is you becoming a bloodthirsty, rich, entitled vampire bitch. And she does not want to be either of those two things, so she refuses to take the pill. Mickey decides to take it, and we will see what comes of that. A few days later, it is day 13, February 5th, 2021. Belle sends Harry to Lark, who is a tattoo artist slash dental hygienist. She basically offers this service to vampires to shave their teeth down to razor sharp teeth in order to help them get a better feed. We see Alma playing her violin, and she's kind of struggling to play Paganini, so she looks in Harry's bag and finds the little black pill and decides to take it because she thinks that that's going to make her a better violinist. And we eventually see her nail Paganini, and then she passes out from exhaustion, and she suddenly starts lashing out at her mother, saying that she just doesn't understand greatness, and Alma does, and so does Harry, and that she will never be great like them. So Harry goes out for his own kills, and this is kind of like where the episode ends, but we do see one more scene a few days later on day 15. It is now February 7th, 2021. Doris finds Alma outside at the cemetery, and she is sucking the blood out of a dead rabbit. So that's where the episode ends. At the beginning of the episode, it is still day 15, February 7th. Doris is cleaning off Alma and the blood all over her face, trying to check her for Lyme and all these different kinds of diseases. And that is when the police chief arrives and decides to question the family right then and there because their neighbors saw Alma covered in blood. But before they can take her down to the station, Doris has a contraction and falls. Doris is told that she must stay at the hospital for at least 4 or 5 days, upwards to a week, because she has had a couple miscarriages in the past. This show and its fucking miscarriages, don't even get me started. Harry tells Alma that she needs to stop taking the pill, and she's like, well, if I have to stop, then you have to stop. So both of them agree to stop taking the pill. The next day, it is day 16, February 8th, 2021. Their pact is basically broken when Harry tries to take a pill and Alma sees it, and they both agree that, you know what, This is just a part of our lives now. We need to take the pill. Alma is very harsh when it comes to Doris. She says that they need to dump Doris and just leave her with a baby alone. And Harry's like, that is still your mother. You will behave yourself. Oh, we get this side plot this episode where Harry is kidnapped by a couple of snuff filmmakers, and he ends up drinking their blood and killing them midway through. Kind of wastes a little bit of time, not gonna lie, but it is kind of funny. The next day, it is Day 17, February 9th, 2021. Harry is greeted at his doorstep by none other than his agent, Ursula, with some great news. Quentin Tarantino wants him to write a TV show for him. Everyone's asking to work with him at this point, so he's like, well, how can I get off these pills now? Like, I'm tasting success right as we speak. Later that night, Ursula heads to the restaurant and sees these two singing. She complains about them and says that they are awful at, well, singing. And this is when she meets Mickey. The next day, it is day 18, February 10th, 2021. Mickey finds her on the beach and tries to sell her his script because he hears that she is a Hollywood agent and that maybe he can use her to get his foot in the door and get his writing career started. I love these two together. This is one of the best duos in this show, and they aren't used nearly enough. Later that night, she reads the scripts and she's gagging. She's gagging just a little bit. They're actually really good in her eyes. And the next day, it is day 19, February 11th, 2021. Mickey explains to Ursula the whole pill situation, how it works, why it was created, who's taking it, essentially him, Belle, Austin, and Harry he thinks is taking it, and Ursula's like, well, yeah, duh, he's definitely taking it. She has Mickey break into Belle's house in order to get a pill for her so that she can study it and try to reverse engineer it. Later on in the episode, Belle and Austin confront Harry about why he's taking home a thermos of blood on their recent kills and why he doesn't just drink it there. And that's when he breaks the news to them that Alma took a pill herself and he's been killing for her. And they're like, absolutely not, Harry. That is violation. You will get her off those pills immediately, babes. Immediately. The next day, it is day 20, February 12th, 2021. Belle breaks into Mickey's house this time and tells him to kill the Hollywood agent because she cannot replicate the pill. She can't let that happen. Belle does not want this to happen because she says that this winter, the pills have just been tossed around a little too much and they need to stay in their little circle. And this Hollywood agent cannot take them to Hollywood. We then see Holden Vaughn, who's that interior designer I mentioned earlier. He gives a statement to the chief about a body that he found while taking his dogs for a walk. Mickey heads to Ursula's and tries to kill her while she's in the bath, and this scene is just too iconic. She tells him that she was able to get him a job, and the job is to remake the Speed Racer movie, I guess. She demands Mickey to take her to the chemist, the person that created the pills, because she wants to network this thing, and she needs a lot of supply for that. And so that means that she has to go to the source of the pill. Like, Mickey can't just keep stealing them from Belle. Together they arrive at the chemist's doorstep and ask for her help in distributing these pills, so she turns them away and then complains to Belle and Austin about it. And at the end of the episode, we see that the chief arrives at the Gardner house and decides to question Alma while Harry is away. This does not go well for the chief, though, because Alma kills the chief. Again, they just completely misuse Adina Porter this season. I feel like they needed to give her a lot more to do. So this whole episode is essentially just a flashback episode. It flashes back to 2015, 2017, and gives us more insight about backstories of the chemist, Belle Noire, Austin Summers, and we get little cameos from these two. And yeah, so let's get on into it. We begin October 19th, 2015. We see that the chemist has moved to P-Town and buys a house from her realtor, who just so happens to be Holden Vaughn. I don't know if he's a realtor or he owns the house. Not entirely sure. And later that night, we see her perfect the black pill for the first time. Moving down a couple days, it is now October 24th, 2015. The chemist is at a bar and she invites Mickey over to her house and basically tells him that she started working on this pill while she was working with the US military to make soldiers less creative. There's this specific part of your brain that if you completely turn it off, you lose all of your creativity. And she says we have to learn how to actually activate that part of our brains first, and that's what this pill does. It activates the creative part in your brain. Mickey says he doesn't want to take the pill, he doesn't trust it. He's not going to be her first test subject, so, but he says that he will produce for her, recruit people for her to be her test subjects. There's this guy, he is a singer, and we see these two watching him sing in the bar, and Mickey goes up to him and sends him over to the chemist to be her first test subject. A few days later, it is now October 26th, 2015. We see Belle before the pills. She is a soft-spoken woman, and she is in this room of like two people reading her new book, her new erotica book about George Washington. Belle's husband completely just like disapproves of her style of writing. They get into this huge blowout fight, and she heads to the bar. She takes amphetamine with Mickey and parties all night with him, and then he takes her to the chemist because she is ready, willing, and able to be one of the test subjects because she wants her writing to get better and get noticed. We see that the singer has begun to lose his hair. We can already tell he's one of the untalented people. Belle starts writing and writing and writing and writing. She writes an entire book in one night, by the way. Her husband returns. Out of rage, essentially, she kills him. She reports back to the chemist the next morning on October 27th, 2015. The next day, it is now October 28th, 2015. He reports to the chemist, and she's like, well, you probably just got pneumonia. I would go out and get a big coat. So he heads to Lark, who owns like a thrift shop inside of her tattoo shop, and she has a bunch of really old AIDS era coats. He buys one from her. A few days later, it is now Halloween, October 31st, 2015. The singer has completely lost himself. He kills someone in a graveyard and drinks her blood. So 2 years later, on Halloween night 2017, Belle recruits Austin, who is doing a drag routine, pretty poorly, by the way. He's not slaying. So she recruits him and gets him on the pill. So this episode opens with Doris giving birth to her son, and they decide to name him Eli. They take her home, and Doris still has absolutely no idea of what's going on with these two or in the town at all, really. Like, she's still like, what the fuck is going on with these pale ass bitches? Mickey picks up Karen, who's outside, and he's in his new really cool car that looks like the car that Speed Racer has, I guess. He tries to get her to take a pill, and she's like, no. So she leaves. We then move down to day 24, February 16th, 2021. Alma starts drinking the baby's blood, and Doris sees this happening. By the way, Doris is on bed rest because she is not doing well post-pregnancy, so it's kind of left up to Harry and Ursula to take care of the baby, and while they're not watching, she takes a drink out of her baby brother's leg. Alma explains the whole pill situation to Doris, and she still doesn't really understand what that even means. She tries to get Doris to take a pill because she thinks that Doris will turn into one of the pale people, and Harry's like, absolutely not. We are not letting her do that. Doris tries to take the baby away by force because she's like, this is crazy. Y'all are crazy. But then she's chased back in by the pale monsters outside, and yeah. Then we see the next day. It is day 25, February 17th, 2021. Belle tells Karen to steal the gardener's baby from them, or else she is going to sick the pale people on Karen. We then see Alma convince Doris to take the pill. She takes it. Later on in the episode, Doris starts to lose some of her hair, and it's not looking very good for Miss Doris Gardner here. Mickey and Karen break into the Gardner home to try and steal the baby for Belle. However, she defends herself and defends the baby, and these two run out because she sees that she is a pale monster, and she's completely bald now, by the way. Her hair is completely out of her head. She's losing her mind a little bit, so she tries to kill the baby, because that animalistic instinct is brought out in her now. Harry runs in and stops her from doing it, thank goodness, and locks her in the bathroom. Meanwhile, at Mickey's house, we see Karen is kind of freaking out about the whole pill situation. She does not want to turn into a pale monster, but she also doesn't want to turn into an elitist and have to drink people's blood in order to stay that way. The next day, it is now day 27, February 19th, 2021. Doris is a complete shell of the person that she used to be, so the Gardners decide to let her go and live out on the streets because they don't have any use for her anymore. Ursula is also partial to this decision because of the plan that her and Alma have, and we'll see what that means in a minute. But first, Karen asks Mickey to take her to the beach so that she can create her perfect painting. And before she starts painting it, she tears his throat out and eats him. Because of the betrayal, like, she felt very forced, does her pretty painting on the beach, and it's a really emotional scene because then she takes her painting knife after painting her magnum opus and walks out into the ocean and slits her own wrists. That is where Karen dies. These two are both now dead. And at the end of the episode, we see Alma and Ursula walk over to the chemist's house. At the beginning of the episode, it is day 34, February 26th. We see that Chief Burleson's body is found in the water, and the city council has like a whole meeting about what to do about a bunch of shit. It's a random ass scene. Holden Vaughn is there. The state trooper walks in and says that she's going to continue investigating all the deaths that have been happening along the Cape, basically take over for Chief Burleson. It's not like it matters because we don't have any more episodes after this anyway. This goes nowhere. We then move on to day 37. It is now March 1st, 2021. We see that Harry finishes, quote, his best work, and Ursula is very excited about where he's going to go from here. However, he tells them that they are done with the pills. Alma is done, he is done, and Ursula is not going to be distributing any more to anybody. The next day, it is day 38, March 2nd, 2021. We see that Eli is not in his crib, the baby Eli is not in his crib, and Belle has taken him. She leaves a ransom note in his crib, and it says that Alma and Harry need to get their asses down to her house so that they can talk. Ursula comes up with a plan to use the pale people in the woods to create a distraction so that they can grab Eli and leave. So she goes to the pale people and offers them a new pill that she supposedly got from the chemist, and they decide to help her with their like collective 4 brain cells that they all share. In the most anticlimactic scene ever, they confront Belle together, and Ursula brings all the pale people, and the pale people all kill Austin and Belle. Harry thinks that him and his family are now safe. However, Alma decides to kill her dad. Don't ask me why, I don't know. We flash forward to June 2nd, 2021. We see that the chemist and Ursula are raising the Gardner kids, and they are distributing the pills to everyone in Los Angeles. She is using it to rid LA of corrupt cops. Alma gets a job in an orchestra, I think. There's a bunch of random shit in this finale. Oh, also, we see the last scene takes place on September 30th, 2021. Everyone in LA is in disarray, and Ursula is giving a speech to a bunch of writers at some seminar and tells them that if they take the pill, they will unlock the creative part of their brain. So everyone in the room takes a pill, and then these streets of LA are seen in chaos. The chemist drives off with baby Eli and goes to work on a pill that will make them live forever. There's also this terrible monologue by Ursula here in the closing moments that's just so bad. And that is Red Tide. Honestly, the first 5 episodes, perfect. I wouldn't change much about them. The only thing that sucks is this last episode and the fact that it ended, to be honest. And in American Horror Story, there's usually so many more issues than that. Like I said, there's not much that I don't like here. Like, the casting is great, characters are fun, the editing, writing is pretty decent for American Horror Story. I feel like this show hasn't had good cinematography since Michael Goy left in season 5, but this season really has good cinematography and it eats down so severely. I'm so sorry. That has been my recap of American Horror Story double feature Red Tide. Let me know down below what you would like to see for Death Valley, if you would even like to see that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!